sit down. Okay, just first, what I'd like to ask each of you, and you can just take a turn and address this. We're talking about selling horses in this economy, and buying horses as well, changes. My question is, what horses are selling now, and how is that different or not from a good economy? Who would like to start?
I'll go ahead and start.
Okay, so my world is the world of 3-day eventing, but I also have the benefit of starting with young horses that can go, I kind of call them an open book. They could be a dressage horse, they possibly could be a fox hunter, they could be an event horse, they could go into the hunter-jumper world. And when I'm referring to that, I'm kind of referring to the thoroughbreds off the track into their second career that are, you know, 4 to 5 years old, or maybe 3 years old, but I prefer the 4 to 5-year-olds because in the eventing world, the rules are you cannot compete a horse in a recognized competition unless they're 4 years old. So I think that the soundness is a big issue. Horses off the track, I don't like to take one. I know they say he's got an old beau, but he'll be fine. So as far as the economy goes and reselling that horse, that's not a good deal unless he's such a fantastic horse that you want to keep him yourself and deal with the old injuries, which at the end of the day sometimes never bother them. But if you're trying to sell a horse and do a pre-purchase exam and they scan them or have a bad x-ray or something, that can affect them. So I think the horses that are the thoroughbreds off the track are what I look at. The market for them in this economy right now is an open book. They have to have sound minds. They have to be not necessarily as good a mover if you're moving them into the hunter-jumper world. As long as they pick their knees up evenly, then everybody loves that. So I think that I'll let these other people answer the question as well, but that's kind of where I'm looking at in this economy is sound mind, sound of body, no old injuries off the track to resell into, you know, and then you can go on to amateurs and professionals, but I'll let somebody else talk.
I train saddlebreds and sell saddlebreds, and in our economy, we have an interesting economy with the saddlebred industry. It seems like either the extremely high-end sales, like the people that can afford $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 horses, you could sell one of those all day long if you had that quality of horse. The horse that was the medium used to be like our $100,000 horse or $150,000 horse. Has dropped down to about a $75,000 horse, and I've been selling several of those. My actual sales are up 30% from last year, which is great. The beginning of the year has been really good for me, but our prices have dropped probably 50% since 3 years ago. But we are selling horses, so that is good. I think that the economy has actually helped correct our market. We will always sell our top horses. We're not highly affected by the economy because of the people that do our sport have a lot of money and they like to see themselves win, and it's ego-driven. So it is an ego-driven market. I mean, who buys a horse for $400,000 for themselves to show unless they have a big ego? Thank God for them. So, because that's why I can put food on the table. But and the low end has been difficult to sell. I mean, the low end has turned into the really low end. Like my $25,000 horses are now $7,500 horses. But if you sell a bunch of them, it works out. So I'm selling more horses for smaller prices. So it's kind of going back up. People aren't as scared to spend money now, but they're not spending as much money is what I'm finding out.
Thank you. I'm from the quarter horse world, and in our world, a broken seasoned horse is selling better than a young horse or a prospect. When the economy is good, people like to take chances, Like she was saying, it's ego-driven. They want to bring along a young horse. They want to be a winner in the fraternities. And a lot of the fraternities pay pretty well. But people have less money to spend on fun and games and recreation now. So they want to buy a seasoned horse that's already been around the show pen or has been trail ridden or is very safe, kind, and gentle. It has to be a good-minded horse. It has to be a sound horse. But I think we're getting more calls. In our world, those are moving a lot better. But on the other hand, because people have been breeding less, the young horses are starting to get a little more activity now, which will be good for the market. But there has been a big adjustment. People were getting a little carried away with how they were pricing horses. About 5 years ago, some people from AQHA called me, and I was in New York showing at the time, and they said, why do you think our horse market is being so effective right now? And I said, well, if you watch the stock market, people had free money. They invested in the stock market, stocks went up. They never had to earn that money, so they were playing with that money. They were buying horses, going to horse shows, and then when the stock market went down, that free money wasn't there anymore. So it was what they could actually earn that was discretionary money that they could go spend. So I think the adjustment has helped in the fact that it's for real now. I mean, if you tell someone it's a $50,000 horse or a $150,000 horse, it probably is that kind of horse. Where a few years ago, a lot of people got took. A lot of people bought a $100,000 horse and it really was only a $50,000 horse. So I think the adjustment has helped the market. I think it's helped horsemen get real about what the product is and how they're trying to promote their product.
And this is something Kathy addressed a little bit, but are buyers looking at more horses, waiting longer to make their decision, or being more critical of minor problems when they buy or when they look?
I have found that people are looking at more horses. They will come in to Kentucky and they will have looked at 25, 30 horses before they decide. So they really, really are weighing out their all avenues, soundness, resale issues, how much fun they're going to have with it. I think the biggest thing is that the horse is going to hold its value because now they need an out. After they get done showing it or the child gets done showing it, they want to know at least that they're going to be able to get some money out of this horse. So soundness is a big issue. Probably more pre-purchase exams are being done now than have been done before because they want to know that there is a way out of the sale. But I would say that a lot more thought goes into buying a horse now than it did.
In my world, there's such a range. There's the 4-year-old horse that the young child, that the adult, like a professional myself, is going to buy and bring on and maybe sell. There's the 14-year-old horse that's been there and done that the parent wants to put the kid on. For all of you here, I sold my baby Simba, who I bred and raised, and he wasn't going to go to Rolex for me, so it's like business. Kathy, you can sell him. I'm sorry, Jess, we're not keeping him for Lucas because it's going to be 5 years. If he doesn't, then he might sit on this horse. So, and I sold him for $50,000, and he was 8 years old, but the limit was preliminary. That was all he was ever going to do. So I think that that there are so many factors that come into the purchases that people make. As you said, where, am I going to resell this horse? Am I going to resell this horse? I was very happy to sell Simba to a 12-year-old kid. Then I know Simba's not going to get passed down the line every time someone qualifies for Young Riders, and then he gets passed to the next person that gets to go to Young Riders on him. So, and for those of you that don't understand, the preliminary level perfect 1-star horse can be owned by 6 people in the space of 12 years because the kid buys him, they get their qualification done, and then they sell him. And I was very happy that he didn't go there. But in our world, as far as qualifying and getting to the next level, that can happen. And so that makes a big difference in, as I said before, Am I buying, is the parent buying for the kid to be safe and move to the next level? And that has to do with how much you're spending and how old the horse is. Or am I buying it as an adult amateur that I want to ride for the next 5 years and not have to spend a whole lot of money on another horse? So there are so many factors in the eventing world that affect the amount you're spending on a horse, for what purpose, and how long you plan on riding it. And then after that, the resale value. And for us, anything that is over 12 years old, maybe a 10, but maybe I can say 12. Whatever you spend on a 12-year-old, after 12 years old, you're not going to get your money back on it, because they don't appreciate in value. They depreciate value because of the essence of the sport and what they're doing. Did that answer your question?
No, I hand the mic to the next one.
In our world, in the quarter horse world, people were looking at more horses. They were what I want to call tire kickers. They were looking at a lot of horses. Now that the numbers have changed in the last 6 months to 9 months, they're not looking at as many horses. They know in their mind what they want. A real horseman or a real show person comes to you knowing what they want to buy, or have in mind what they want to buy, where 2 years ago you'd get all kinds of calls. I mean, it was not easy, and it was tough, and it was very frustrating because everyone knew there was an adjustment going on. If you showed them a horse that was truly valued at $50,000, they bid you $10,000. And one lady told me this. She said, "You'll never sell this horse. It's a down market." Well, you know, probably not, but that's a pretty big kick in the teeth too. So, but I think people aren't looking at as many now as they were a few months ago. I think they're educated. They know what they want. I think we see less tire kickers now. And really and truly, winners kind of sell themselves. A good horse will always sell itself.
The national market is taking a larger percentage of your sales, or is that pretty much steady?
We sell a lot to South Africa, and starting to sell more to Germany and Japan, but I don't think it's increased at all. In fact, probably for our market, it's maybe stayed the same. It's not gone up any. And it's not a very big market for us. It's probably maybe 10% of our sales.
My comment on that is that I just kind of have this pet peeve of people think they can go to England or Ireland and buy the fancy event horse when if you give me a year with that horse, I can produce the same horse over here. And, you know, I think it's it's kind of a fantasy. I'm going to go to England. It's really cool. I went with so-and-so and I bought this horse from England and brought it over here. And I think that at the end of the day, for the eventing world, yes, there are fantastic horses over there. The footing is better over there. They start at an older age, but stay sounder because we don't run the horses on, they don't run their horses on as hard ground as we have to over here because, and we had Mary King as our guest speaker, who was a, Olympian and won Rolex, was first and second in Rolex. And I mean, to listen to her talk about the management of her horses at the top level was amazing. No injections, no chiropractic, no nothing, but they have great footing, and they don't jump their horses till they're 4.5 or 5 years old when they're finished growing. So you're not starting with all of the soundness problems that eventers can come into because we're running our horses too fast, too young, on too hard footing. So, in backing up with, is the international market taking sales? I think that if you have the money to go overseas and buy a horse over there and can bring it to this country, more power to you. Do we have the horse flesh in this country? We do. when you get a horse from England and bring it over here to this country, give it the time to adjust to the footing. Because otherwise, I see you shaking your head, in agreement, if you don't, you will pay for soundness problems 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and you will think it's a training problem. You will think the chiropractor needs to come again. At the end of the day, the horse just needed to adjust to its new environment and its new lifestyle instead of pushing it too fast. So I'm not sure I quite answered the international sales thing, but that's my answer.
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit before I answer that part. Look, everyone's kind of hit on, no matter what your prospect or your horse is, if it's not in a good program, it won't be a good horse. When I said a minute ago that I like to sell our horses to horsemen or show people, I want them in a good home. Since we stand stallions, I want them in a good home where I know they're going to get a chance. A lot of average horses are great winners because they go through a good program. And a lot of really exceptional 2-year-olds never get a shot because they don't get in a good program. So I like to make sure, or I try to make sure our horses are going to go to a, when I say a good home, I mean a home where they're going to get every shot. They're not going to be hammered to death. They're not going to be tried to be pushed too fast. If he's not a great pleasure horse, he might be a world champion trail horse. But I think that is important. And on the international scene, Europe, the United States sending horses to Europe has not been as good in the last few years as it had been. The cost to ship a horse to Europe is somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 now. To ship a horse to China is about $10,000. To ship a horse to New Zealand is between $5,000 and $7,500. So I've done some business in New Zealand, in Europe, in China, and if I find if a gentleman tells me he wants to spend $5,000 on a horse, by the time we get that horse there, he has $10,000 in it. When the Chinese buy a horse from us for $30,000, by the time he gets there, they have $40,000 to $45,000 in it. So at least you have the right buyers and the right horse. That international market's not always that easy to work, because when you say, oh, I got $25,000 for my horse that went to China, well, those people actually pay $40,000 for that horse. So it's a little bit different. It's tricky. We've been lucky. Shirley, my wife, and I, we've been over there 7 times in the last 2.5 years, mainly through AQHA in the state of Kentucky. We've set up at the Beijing and Shanghai horse expos. We've made a lot of connections. We've entertained 12 different groups from China. But we haven't sold a lot of horses yet. You know, I mean, we've helped a lot of folks get some horses sold. I mean, there's been about 50 go through our hands that went, but I've only sold 1 myself that I raised. It's going to be there. I mean, it's a third of the world's population is in China. They have 100 cities with a 1 million+ population. So it is probably going to be a good market. The hard part right now is, my wife was complaining to Dr. Squires a lot, is just the protocol for China was written in 1994, so they're testing for diseases that don't even affect anything anymore. And that makes it really tough. And the cost. The cost is just astronomical. But it will be, when we do have a lot of horses again, it will be a good market for us, I think.
If it's not a good match, I'm not going to sell it. I mean, I will not, I just won't do it. Because at the end of the day, in my world, someone's going to get hurt. And I'm not going to put, and like I've said before, I've done a lot of training of horses, I've done a lot of riding of horses, I've done a lot of teaching of people, and I've sold a few. And I'm getting more into the selling. But because I've done a lot of teaching of people, and I've seen what people buy, and then they come to me and want me to fix it, and I'm like, why did you start with this in the first place? You know, I mean, so I just won't, I will not sell. If it's not a match, it doesn't happen.
I think that you have to be very careful where you shop if you're looking for a horse, to make sure the person that you go to is reputable. I won't even have something in my barn that I can't stand behind. If it rears up, he has bad behavior, I'll tell the owner to come pick it up because I can't sell it. Things happen, you know, some horses, something might scare them and hurt somebody, but certainly if you know there's an issue, you know, I don't want them in my barn. But you need to shop at some place that you know the people are reputable. I mean, that's number one. And everybody has a reputation. All you gotta do is do a little bit of homework and find out what the reputation is. But I wouldn't sell one that wasn't gonna suit the program.
But how do you convince them you're not going to sell them? I just would say, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work for you. There you go.
Yeah, I agree. We're very careful. It is a thin line. You have to be really careful how you do it. It's not as hard for me with kids because you can talk to a parent and you can just tell them, you know, you don't feel comfortable. But you have to be a little careful because your owner that you just killed that deal on, you have to make sure your owner also understands what you're doing, that it's for the big picture and everybody's reputation's at stake and somebody's safety's at stake. But you have to be a little careful. It's not easy. I've lost customers over it, and I'm sure I'll lose a few more. But it's hard, and it is hard because sometimes when you think you have matched up the horse and rider, something does happen. The training program doesn't continue like you had, or the horse gets spooked, or there are no, I don't care what anybody says, there is not a bomb-proof horse in this world. Something will scare them off sooner or later. And it is tough, and you have to be careful what you do with it. But I think a little of it is on the buyer's side too. They have to be a little open-minded. They have to do their homework a little bit too. It's kind of funny because I've had people come to me and tell me what they want, and then when I find what they want something else. You know, so it's not always easy. It's not an easy, and there's a lot of nights you don't sleep. You worry about this stuff.
Yeah, let me just say one more thing and then I'll, the other thing that I have to laugh, I sold a horse one time and then 5 years later I got a call from probably the third owner after I'd sold it and said, this horse is rearing now. Did it do, and I'm like, that was 5 years ago. Why am I, but no, it never reared with me, you know, so, anyway.
Train horses. How do you assess how much to put into the training of a horse that you're going to sell? When does it not become cost effective? How do you determine that, whether you're just, you know, it's a wash, whether you could sell it for $10,000 untrained or $20,000 with $10,000 worth of training in it, that sort of thing? Yeah. Well, how do you assess that?
Well, I think the time to sell it is when somebody wants to buy it. I don't care. I always tell my owners that. I'm like, if you've got an offer and you have no training in this horse, you're a winner. I sell my babies out in the field inexpensively because who knows? I mean, I've sold great ones for nothing. I've sold nothing for a lot. So it just all works out. I mean, I think that, you know, realistically for us, in the saddlebred world, you got to give them 6 months to a year. So you're going to have $15,000 easily in them. So then you just kind of weigh it. And if they look like they're going to make a great one, then you hold on to it. If they're an average one, you need to cut your costs as soon as possible.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I mean, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush. If someone comes up to you with the money and it passes the vet, you know, and that's a big deal. I mean, for me, with the thoroughbreds off the track, you know, I do a, you know, cursory pre-purchase exam because, you know, flex them up, trot them up, do the front feet and the hocks or whatever you decide to do, but have a baseline to start so that when the vet and I worked for a lady one time that she didn't want me to pre-purchase any of the horses, and I trained a lot of horses off the track for her. And I was like, I am putting, I mean, I know you're paying me a salary, and that was really cool. I actually got paid a salary for once in my life instead of having to be self-employed. But I mean, I put a lot of time and effort and energy and my heart into these horses, and she would never do a pre-purchase exam before we started. So then you put all that money into them, or all that time, And then a vet comes in and does an x-ray and sees a chip that has been there since you started, but you didn't know it because you didn't take the picture of the foot or the ankle or whatever. So that would be my advice, is do your, if you're gonna be making up horses to sell, do your own pre-purchase exam if you haven't bred them and raised them. But even if you've done that, you probably do that already. But I don't breed and raise the horses. I've only done one or two. I get them off the track. I do a pre-purchase exam myself so that I know what's there, so that when I put all this time and effort and money into them, when someone else comes along and does their pre-purchase, I know that that problem has been there, I've accepted it, or you have a baseline to start from. So that's kind of my advice. And then, like I said, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush. Someone's writing you a check, the check clears, go to the bank. Because they could break their leg the next day in the field and you got nothing.
I've got a couple of things. When you said, how do you know how long to spend with a horse? If you're a breeder, if you're raising these horses and you're counting on a trainer to advise you, you need to have a relationship with that trainer that there is a stopping point, there is a cutting off point, but a breeder is a little different than someone that just buys a young horse. A breeder is trying to develop a reputation and you want to promote your mares or your stallions, so it's a little different. You probably want to go a little further than you normally would, because if that one does hit, a lot of 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds don't hit. They don't hit till they're 4 or 5. I'm not saying you got to leave them in training that long. But I'm just saying it's a different mindset if you're a breeder than if you're just someone that bought a young horse. And so you kind of have, I mean, I've sent horses home. I remember, you probably remember her, Ruth Ann Anderson. I had about 7 or 8 quarter horses for them. I sent the first 4 home after a month. I couldn't make it work. They were wasting money. And finally they sent me one that didn't, and it was pretty good, and it won the worlds. And she told me later, she said, I thought you didn't like me. You kept sending my horses. Well, they just weren't good enough. You know, she was going to wait, and I had no idea they had plenty of money. I thought she had to waste the money, you know. But, you know, you got to develop that relationship with a trainer too. And I think there are different levels. Kevin McGrath lives in Minnesota, and we work for him. And he has 3 stallions with us. Well, he goes a little further with his babies, because if one does hit, it makes the stallions worth more money. So there is a difference there. And when you were talking about the pre-purchases and all, I totally believe in pre-purchases, but I don't live and die by them. I've got horses at the barn that have won the worlds 3 or 4 times, that have hooks as big as your thumb in their hock, and if you maintain it and take care of it, it'll never affect them. But we're aware of it. We know when we get ready to sell that horse, that issue's there. And I think that's the important part. You've got to be aware that that problem or that issue's there. I had a little note here. I forgot what the question was a minute ago, but
Downs in the horse industry as far as pricing and the number of horses being registered or not being registered. So do you all feel like the current situation is just normal and it'll pick right back up to where it was, and we'll just continue to have those, or is this something different?
For the first time, because I've been in this industry a long time and my parents have too, this is the first time that I felt like this is a correction that is going to stay a while. I don't think that the prices are going to go as crazy as they once were in our industry. Yeah, the top horses are going to sell, but I think it's really affected the medium price horses, and I think it's going to stay. I mean, I think everyone needs to adjust to it and make whatever necessary adjustments that you need to make in your programs as far as your cost to take care of a horse, your cost to train a horse. I think it's, to me, and that's what I'm finding, because it's gone on too long.
Yeah, I would say it's staying. The big thing I've noticed in my world is I still have my people coming for the lessons, but they may decide to only do 1 event a month instead of doing 2 events a month. So that's where they're cutting back or making an adjustment as far as their competition schedule goes. And as far as money spent on horses, as you said, you're going to sell, there's going to be the $200,000, $300,000 horse out there, but the medium level for the eventing world and novice training levels, beginner, novice, and training levels, the average price of those horses is going to be around $15,000 to $25,000, and then your age depends. If they're a little older or they don't have potential, they're going to stay there. If they're a little younger or have potential, it's going to go higher. So I think that's kind of been the same over the last few years.
I think it's twofold. I think the world economy that we've lived through lately has really caused the biggest hit to the horse market. And I agree with everyone else. I think that medium is going to be a lot less expensive than it was in the past, which it should be because we were pricing people out of the industry. I do think that our babies are going to bring a little more money here in the next couple of years just because there's fewer numbers, and the good ones are going to always be worth more money. I don't care if they're 6 months old or 6 years old, they're going to be worth a little more money. But I think that we also have another problem that has not hit us yet because we've been worrying about the economy so much, but that we have fewer people involved in our industry because there's fewer people that have an agricultural background. So we have much fewer people getting involved, enjoying horses. Everybody's in competition for time. I mean, all of you all are here tonight because you like the horse, but as someone that's in the business, we have less customers or less people calling us just because there's less people that enjoy horses than there used to be. But we're so worried right now about the economy that once we get through this, then the other's going to smack us right in the face.
I actually said that was the last question. I lied. I'm going to ask one more question. Because I want to end on a positive note. What are the good things that could come out of this adjustment or correction? What are some of the good things that you think might happen or that maybe you see happening that really, from an industry standpoint, could be positive in the long run if we handle it right?
And if nobody has anything to say, Chris.
Let's see.
No, I think that, I do think that the good thing is that maybe it's not as much pressure on the trainer to resell people's horses. I mean, now when someone buys a $50,000 horse for $50,000, you can kind of relax into it, enjoy it, and have a little more fun. I don't know, there's a little bit more honesty in it. And I think if we play it right and market it right, we can get more people interested in it because now more people will be able to afford it because our market has gone down to a more affordable rate. So if you really concentrate on that and promote the fact that this is a user-friendly industry, that horses should be enjoyed by the whole family and that they can afford it now, I think that's what we should take from this.
I just think that in my world, I know I keep saying my world because it seems like your world is very different from my world. Both of your all's world is very different from my world. It doesn't, oh, it's just me, okay. Okay, well then we can move on. I think that, as I said, the 12-year-old kid that bought Simba, who invested $50,000 in him, she's going to have him after she graduates from college. I mean, he's going to, so I think that it's the quality, the longevity of the horses that people are buying now. They're being a little more realistic. Okay, if I spend, and I did sell a young thoroughbred, 6 years old off the track, but I'd had him for a year and a half. He was a solid citizen. He went to a good home. He went to a program where the kid was going to get lessons because I would not have sold, as you said, it's got to be a match. I would not have sold this age thoroughbred to a 13-year-old kid had the mother not been an expert in dressage, had a good trainer, and had been to the facility and seen where it was going. But that was an investment that's going to last them a long time. So that's what I'm seeing in our world, is that people are buying the horse that's going to last them a little bit longer, and they're not going to have to turn around and do it all again in 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think our medium is more realistic, so I think that is a positive thing out of this adjustment. I think that people breeding less horses, let's see, how should I say this? People breeding for quality instead of numbers has become a very important trait in the last couple of years. So I think there's a lot of good. It's just we're not ever going to be back like we were 5 years ago. It's just, I don't think it'll ever be that way again. And you know, I mean, it's probably for the best. But you know, I would have cut and run in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s if I didn't think it was worth sticking out and trying to make it work. So.
Let me just make a comment. It's interesting to me that a lot of us just came back from the Quarter Horse Convention, and there are two growth areas that the Quarter Horse Association has identified. One is the young youth, and the other is the seniors, the 50 and older, which I fit in that category, maybe even the 60 and older fit in that category. But and they started a program called Digital Oats, and this is a program for kids that are 3 to 6, because they think that if you don't get them hooked by the time they're 6, you may never get them hooked. And they're already hooked on their iPads, so why not let them play horse games on their iPads? So the thing that they're going to roll out is this Digital Oats for 3 to 6-year-olds. And then the Select Show, which is the fastest growing part of AQHA, is over 50 years of age, and they're talking about having one over 70 years of age, the Super Select group. So maybe we can all live to ride in that. But thank you, panel, for coming. Let's give them a good hand.